New legal questions swirling around President Trump concerning his firing of FBI Director James Comey. They involve comments Mr. Trump reportedly made to Russian officials in the Oval Office about why he sacked the FBI director. Democrats now saying he may have committed obstruction of justice in the Russia investigation. According to the New York Times, the president said, quote, "I just fired the head of the FBI. He was crazy, a real nut job. I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off." Now, on the Sunday talk shows, two top administration officials coming to Mr. Trump's defense, saying the president's comments are being blown out of proportion.
I think what the president was trying to convey to the Russians is, look, I'm not going to be distracted by all these issues that are here home. That affect us domestically.
The gist of the conversation was that the president feels as if he's hamstrung in his ability to work with Russia to find areas of cooperation, because this has been obviously so much in the news.
And let's bring in our legal panel. Rachel Self is a trial attorney, and David Schwartz is a defense attorney and former prosecutor. Good to have both of you. David, I start with you. Get your reaction to National Security Advisor McMaster and Secretary of State Tillerson. Who of the two has the stronger argument, David, in the president's favor, or are they both solid defenses?
Well, I think they're both solid defenses, and even beyond that, even if the remarks are as they are, they weren't blown out of proportion, it doesn't come close to obstruction of justice, Arthel. You need a willful act involving bribery for it to amount to obstruction of justice. This is not even close. I mean, if remarks are obstruction of justice, then I'd be guilty of that in every case I've ever handled.
All right, I'll get back to that in a moment. Meanwhile, Rachel, to you now, from a criminal defense as well as a political perspective, what are the biggest roadblocks in the way of the Trump administration and the president from clearing his name? And also, what does the administration and the president have going in their favor?
Well, at this point, Arthel, from a criminal defense perspective, his statements could be tantamount to an admission of wrongdoing in an obstruction of justice case. The hardest part for the government to prove in an obstruction of justice case is intent. Now, if the investigation reveals that his intent in firing the individual is to prevent the investigation from happening, then you're going to be looking straight at an obstruction of justice charge. From a political perspective, the biggest problem is he sold out an American by trashing Comey to the Russians. And I don't care what your excuse is, words matter. And when he sold out Comey by trashing him to the Russians, he's not putting America first. So I think that it's a problem from every perspective. What he can do right now is throw all his cards on the table, say, Mueller, do your job, and if an indictment happens, an indictment happens. If it doesn't, then that speaks for itself.
David, you want to jump in?
Of course. It's willful acts by means of bribery. The United States Code is extremely clear on obstruction of justice. Words don't matter. Words do not obstruct justice. I don't care what the words are. By the way, I don't even care why he fired Comey. Comey's an at-will employee. So the bottom line is, it may be other things, but it's not obstruction of justice. This is not even close.
I completely disagree with you. David,
Where?
I completely disagree with you. Obstruction of justice is when you impede a criminal investigation from going and doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Nope.
Here, he totally could have possibly, fired him for the purpose of turning a blind eye to the investigation and getting it off of there and relieving the pressure that he was facing. And if that's the case, then he's absolutely looking at obstruction of justice charges.
Let me jump in because I've got 1 minute here. I'm sorry, Rachel. I want to ask you, David, how key is Comey's testimony and his memo, and how can Mr. Mueller fold those findings into his investigation?
Well, look, Comey's testimony could have an effect on the president and credibility, and it could be a he said, she said. But the bottom line is, it'll have no effect on obstruction of justice whatsoever, because, again, obstruction of justice is this willful act involving bribery. Where is the bribery? Show me where the bribery is.
Rachel
Obstruction
Self,
of
David
justice
Schwartz. I'm sorry, guys. I have to leave it there. I'm up against a hard break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you, Arthel. Thank you.
Of course. And we'll be right back.